All right, good evening. I'd like to call the Tuesday, August 29th, 2023 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Can we all please stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I don't have any announcements this evening. Moving on, is to anyone here for anything that's not currently posted on our agenda? Seeing as none, we'll move right into the public hearing for St. Denis Church for 2 one-day liquor licenses and possible votes. We have
Hi.
How are you?
All right, very well. So the first day license is for a event that we're holding in the church hall for an Elvis impersonator. It's an adults only gathering 21 years or older. The flyers have gone out, and I should have brought one with me, but I didn't. Limit 2 drinks per person, and it's beer and alcohol. It's a $20 price to get in. The second one is a celebration. It's a free pasta dinner night in celebration of the Feast of St. Denis, and that's in October. There will be children allowed at that, but drinks will be, again, limited to two drinks per person, a beer or wine.
You going to be the Elvis impersonator?
Absolutely.
So I guess it's the same individual that they had at the senior center a while back, and everybody said he was fantastic, so hopefully he does a good show. We'll see.
Awesome. And all the paperwork's in order?
Yep.
Anything from any of the abutters?
No, and I don't.
Any concerns from police or fire?
No.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. Oh, I forgot to open the public hearing. Oops.
Okay, why do you do that?
Take a motion to open the public hearing.
So
Motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now we can close the public hearing unless anybody has any questions.
No, we're going to accept everything that he said before you open it. Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay.
Make a motion that we approve the 2 special one-day liquor licenses for St. Denis Church, September 16th and October 14th, 2023.
I'll second.
Excellent. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
Thank you.
it. Good evening.
You too.
What time you want Kevin there?
Whenever he's available.
All right. How about now?
Oh, no. I'm not even sure of that.
But he's a comedian.
Well, hey, I'm just trying to help you out, bud.
Hey, thanks. All right, so we have another public hearing for Whitensville Fish and Game for a one-day liquor license and entertainment license and possible votes. Good, how are you?
We want to open the public hearing?
Yes.
Make a motion to open the public hearing for the Whitesville Fish and Game.
The motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
No?
Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 You know the drill?
I know the drill. Field day, right?
Yeah, annual field day, September 16th, pretty much the same as we always did, nothing's changed. We're gonna do chicken dinner and so forth. We'll have the little pavilion is where we have set up for the external bar that we have to get the license for, or permit for, rather. It's same old stuff, we got a bunch of games and stuff for the kids to play, and we made new booths, so try to make it more family-friendly this year.
There you go. Well, the vice chairman's a great Elvis impersonator if you need that.
I heard that.
I'm already booked for 2 events.
Well, it's the same day, so you might as well come down. Double duty.
But I know that somebody that does a killer Drew Carey.
Really? Here we go again.
Oh, boy.
So any concerns from police or fire? No.
All paperwork.
All the paperwork's in,
Yep.
nothing from the abutters?
No, they don't have any.
They don't have any? Well,
The woods, I don't think
The woods.
I don't think the black bear that lives on our property is gonna care.
he's okay with that?
He must be.
All right. Gonna save him a picnic basket, all that good
I
stuff?
could leave him out one. I've seen him twice, so he's there.
Anybody have any questions, or?
Nope. Like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody care to make a motion on the liquor and entertainment license?
I'll motion to approve the liquor and entertainment license for the Whitensville
Fishing game.
fishing game
Yeah.
on September 16th, 2023.
Second.
Excellent. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. See you next year.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a follow-up discussion on the Route 16 speed limit review and possible votes. In our packet, we have an email from Chief Miglianico. How we doing, Chief?
Good evening, how are you?
Good?
So I did forward the email to Lisa, and I think you have it in your packets. I did get a response from DOT, who reviewed the information that was sent in by the resident on Main Street. So we do have a special speed regulation already in place on Davis Street in that area, which is 40 miles per hour. In order to change that, there's a lengthy and, I think, complicated procedure that you all would have to go through. You would have to vote to rescind the current speed limit. We would have to submit what you would want changed, and then we would have to change all the signs accordingly. Now, DOT's concern and my concern, this is a .31 mile stretch of road, which would go from a 40 to a 30, back to a 40, into a 20. It's too short of an area, and there's a lot of changes with the signage. It's going to cause more confusion than anything, and frankly, it'd be very difficult for us to even enforce in that small .31 mile section of road. We did some speed evaluations with our speed trailer in the area of 33 Main Street, which is kind of right in the middle of that section that we're talking about, just a little further east of the VFW. So our speed trailer, on average, there was 4,100 vehicles approximately per day. The average speed going westbound was about 35 miles per hour, and the average speed going eastbound was about 36 miles per hour. So the 85th percentile of those cars are actually under the 40. And if we were going to make it a 30, you're talking only 5, they're not even 10 miles over the speed limit. So, of course, you get some outliers that, on slower traffic times, you might get some busier speeds through there, but on average, the traffic is so heavy through there, it seems like the cars are going faster than they are. I get it when you're that close to the road, but, other than slow traffic period times, the average speed in that area is about 35 miles an hour. So, based on all that information, based on the analysis from the DOT and what I see, I would recommend that we keep it the same. Again, like we've discussed in the past, we've had some accidents in that stretch of road. The last 3 serious accidents we've had there were not speed related. It's either inattention or, one was, 2 of them were a medical issue prior to the crash.
Makes sense to I appreciate you looking into it.
Yeah, not a problem.
Do we need to take any sort of vote on that?
Well, we're not really taking any action, so.
Well, I didn't know if we needed to take a vote to accept the recommendations for the police chief.
Couldn't hurt.
Make a motion to accept the recommendations of the police chief. They keep the speed limit as posted currently.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
All right,
Aye.
Okay. And
he's up again.
he's up again, so you might as well stay comfy there, chief.
Okay, yeah. So I'll give you an update on the department as far as where we are today. We started this fiscal year in July. We, about a month into it, we got our last officer back out of the academy, so we're back to full speed. 15 full-time officers, that's with myself and the lieutenant. We have a detective sergeant, 3 patrol sergeants, and 9 patrolmen. I still have 4 part-time officers that are fully certified officers, have been to the full-time academy, so even with the change in what the MPTC did and with the police reform law, they're still certified full-time. 2 of them are retired from full-time, but they can still work X amount of hours, so they mainly do traffic details and, help out with parades and, what have you. And then the other 2 can periodically work shifts, but they both have full-time jobs, so it's very random when they're available to work. Our dispatch center is fully staffed. We have 4 full-time dispatchers right now and 6 part-time dispatchers. We just completed the first collective bargaining agreement, at least in writing, and we expect that to be ratified at the November town meeting after it goes before you gentlemen. I think it was a good process. It's their first contract. It's a fair contract. They're very happy with it. I'm very happy with it. It puts them in line with what their colleagues are getting, and it's going to help us retain the dispatchers. We have a good, solid group, and, we want to make sure that we can retain them. We have a couple of dispatchers part-time now that are, have a goal of becoming police officers. They've made a commitment, to the department, and, I'm happy that they're going to stay here because, anybody who's fully trained, and we fully train them, we get them their certifications. There's such a high demand for quality people and that already have their certifications. They could walk into any department that's hiring a full-time dispatcher and get a job in a second, but they've chosen to stay here, dedicate themselves to the department, and, we look forward to keeping them on board. I have 2 replacement cruisers that we were able to get money for at the May town meeting. So we already had the cruisers were available, so we were able to pay for them and get those. The delay was the supply chain and installers for the company, upfitters. They're having the same problem as a lot of other people are as far as hiring. You need good outfitters and to put the equipment in the cars. So the cars are there. We expect to take ownership of at least one of them by the end of this month, and the other one should be shortly thereafter. So that'll replace 2 of our line cruisers right now, and then we'll look to doing 2 more next year and then 2 more the following year, and that'll be our cycle again, completed for the next 4 years or so.
Chief, as you take 2 offline, where did they go?
Well, we'll take a look at it. They're still in decent shape, so they could be used for details. We may transfer one over to, we have one that's outfitted for the K-9, so Officer Filoni can take it to and from school and to and from events. It has a special cage in it. But we'll probably use them for details and road work instead of using the line cars, if we can still keep them online. We can also use them for court and training. Instead of putting miles on the line cars, it'll give them a rest. And, if they're not worth keeping because of the mileage, usually when we're not running them 24/7, after they get 100,000 miles on them and you're running them 24/7, they start to fail. If they have 120, 125 miles and you're only using them a couple days a week for details, you'll get more life out of them. We're taking them to a training, but we'll evaluate that once we get everything switched over, the new cars on the road, and then we'll take a good look at those two and see what we can do with them. We don't get a lot of money on trade, that's why it's easier just to keep them, and then, you know, even if we had to scrap them or put them up for auction, but we get some pretty good use out of them.
So manpower-wise, with the warehouse coming in, probably going to get more traffic, you know, plus some of the economic development projects, how are you guys looking manpower-wise? And what are you forecasting? Like, you think you'll need more bodies?
Yeah, that's on my list right here, as a matter of fact. Yeah, it's something we certainly need to talk about as the year goes on, getting towards next year. I'm already anticipating next fiscal year, one sergeant intends to retire, so that's going to be a vacancy. Right now, we're at 15 full-time with myself and the lieutenant. I think we need to be at 17 to adequately staff all our shifts at all times with vacation time and, you know, certain times of the year, you look at the schedule in 1 minute, you know, we schedule it, we try and have at least three people on the road for like a 3 to 11 shift, just for an example, and very seldom are we running that. And we're getting to the point now where they're busy enough where 2 people just aren't enough to adequately staff that shift on a regular basis. And that seems to be like with what we're running at, even at full-time, 15 full-time. I'd like to add a position this July, which would put us to 16, put another position in the budget, which would put us to 16 full-time, and then within the next 3 years, see how that works out for us, give it a year, and then by that 3rd year, get to number 17. 17, I think, will give us the ability to cover every shift adequately, taking everything into consideration, even the vacation time. But again, like you said, there's a lot of things going on in town, a lot of business coming in, even with the employees of the warehouse, there's going to be, you know, increased traffic. So it's certainly something that we have to look at and have to have the conversation as the year goes on. But the main issue is it's a 6 to 9 month process to get somebody in place. It's not like if I know a sergeant's leaving in July and I don't kind of forecast that and try and get somebody in an academy, you know, prior to that, then if we wait till right up until that person leaves, then you're looking at 6 months in an academy and then 3 months, you know, field training. It's almost 9 months before you get that actual person on the road and active. So there's a lot of planning that goes along to it. So, you know, I have to plan for, you know, that one departure, and I have, you know, a couple of people that are right on the cusp, even, you know, to make their decision. They're at retirement age and could retire. So we have to plan for that as well. But I know one definitively plans on retiring after July.
Those 2 positions, how does that affect the vehicle count?
Well, right now, if you get, we bought another vehicle out of our drug account a couple years ago. So we'll have one more body we can squeeze in there into the rotation of the 6 cruisers. But when you get up to that 17, if that was the case, one more person would get us to 16, we wouldn't have to do anything with the cruisers. Probably get to 17, that's when you start looking at probably adding another car to the fleet, because we try and split up the cars driven by the officers on the shift, so the cars aren't running 24 hours a day. So we look at the schedule, okay, we have the Officer A working day shift, Officer B working the 3 to 11, and Officer C working the 11 to 7. So try and, you know, the day shift guy with this guy on his days off, we go through it so you don't have the cars running constantly, but it's probably about, once you get to 17, where we are right now, would probably have to add another car to the fleet. So personnel-wise, as we get closer to budget time, So we'll have to have that discussion. I'd like to put it in there and make the case for it anyway. I mean, we talk about it every year, and I know a lot of departments are in the same place. It's no different. Everyone's going to tell you that they need more people. I see it. I know the highway needs it. I know the fire department needs it. We need it. I know the town hall has positions that, they're looking at. So, I mean, the town's growing. The best thing that I can do for the department is put it in there and make the case for it. And then the retirements as they come over the next, 3 to 4 years. We have some people that have been here for well over 20 years. They're going to get close to retirement age, and we have to prepare for those the best we can. Like I said, just to get ahead of the hiring process and make sure that we're not waiting around 6 to 9 months to fill a position that we know is going to be vacant. Any more questions on the staffing?
And the headcount also includes the SRO, right?
But, and that, yeah, that's another thing. So we essentially have 11 patrolmen that are working the patrol function. If you take, me and the lieutenant doing administrative stuff, and the detective sergeant working Monday through Friday doing the detective stuff and the accreditation stuff, and Officer Filoni, who's dedicated to the school during the school year, he's on a Monday through Friday schedule. So that kind of takes another full-time patrolman out of the loop, but we've made that commitment to the school, and I think it's something that we need, and, we work around it.
Is that enough, one officer for the schools?
He splits his time between the schools. He touches every school, and he's involved in every school. He's busy, because there's a lot of things, that go on between, things with students and other things. It's not, but we could probably use, I mean, in a perfect world,
Yeah.
for me, in a perfect world, there would be an officer in every school. It's, but you're looking at 4 schools. I know a lot of chiefs feel that way, and, a lot of administration feel that way. I mean, I would feel more comfortable if there was an officer dedicated to every school. We do the best that we can with what we have. Brett does a great job. He has a great relationship with, the administrative staff up there. Anytime they have an issue, they go to him, directly, and it works right now. But, I mean, for safety and security reasons, I'd be much more comfortable with an officer in every school. I know every chief is going to tell you that, and we know the reality is it's probably not going to happen. But for what we have, he does, in the time that we have to dedicate up there, he does a good job.
Would be better to have at least one on each campus.
Yeah.
Cut down on that travel time.
Yeah, always. I mean, you can only get the 4 places in a day, so much time in an 8-hour day, 6-hour day that they're at school. But he's there before they're, when they're getting in, he's there early, he's there late, he's, whatever they need, he accommodates. So we started the fiscal year with a $15,600 MRS grant, which is Municipal Road Safety. So what that's going to do, and you've probably seen, gives us like $2,500 per mobilization, clicker ticket, you drink, you drive, you lose, hands-free, cell phone use. Every time you see those national mobilizations, we get to use that money as well for extra road patrols, which pays for the patrolman's overtime. So we get to get extra people out there at no cost to the town, paying them overtime, specifically looking for seatbelt violations, looking for cell phone usage, looking for, impaired drivers. So that's a nice grant to have. Last year, as a matter of fact, we got some equipment off of those, and that's what we were able to put downtown, the speed sign. We got that through the grant for no cost to the town. So I anticipate shortly getting the grant for the 911 incentive grant. We're just waiting to hear back from them. We should be getting it any day. That's another $34,685, and that I use towards dispatch overtime and dispatch part-time officers will fill their shifts. So we can backfill their shifts and it doesn't cost us out of our budget. We're able to use those funds for salaries. We'll also get a 911 training grant, which will give us about $10,000, which will cover all of our dispatchers, full-time and part-time, all of their in-service training. So it won't cost us anything out of our training budget. So that's 16 hours that every one of them has to have for in-service training, which is about $400 a piece, and plus their time to do the training. So again, that won't cost us anything. That'll be a 911 grant through the state as well.
Nice.
So, and also moving forward towards, budget time, just, our building, obviously, we've had the conversation about the building, and I know we're moving forward on, plans for that, to look at that, but, as long as we're down there, we have to maintain certain areas, so I'm gonna have to look at upgrading the cell block with the floors and the standalone toilets and sinks that are in there. Those are original from 1993, so they're starting to get to the point where you can't even really clean them anymore because they're rusting, and we get inspected annually by the Department of Public Health on the cells, so they come in and, it's, chip and paint, or, there's a crack here, there's some rust on the sink, so you have a hard time passing these inspections after a certain period of time. We fix whatever they find, and then when they come in again, it's something else. So we just want to fix it, get it up to speed where we're not going to have any problems. We got a plan for the floor, we got a plan to change out the toilets and the sink, but it's going to cost some money, and like I said, with the inspections, we're going to have something that we're going to have to take care of. I'll probably, put a plan together and maybe present that to Capitol at some point. But for now, I think that's it. I mean, my biggest concern moving forward, as you brought it up, is staffing and recruitment. It's a tough market out there right now. I have some quality candidates in-house that will give a good look, and like I said, they've dedicated themselves to the department, so I think they deserve an opportunity. So we have some good people waiting. They just would rather do it sooner rather than later, if once we know that a position's going to be available. So we're not behind the 8 ball.
Awesome.
Very good.
Anybody have any questions for the chief?
Does your, I think it was Holden and Douglas with the 2 Central Mass accredited police stations, are there others that have come on since?
There are a lot that are in the certification process right now, because the thing with post is that's, one of the things that they want police departments, to do. So there's a lot in the running right now. There's a handful in Central Mass. Uxbridge is in the process. They were just certified, and I know there's numerous other departments that have begun the process.
So, but you're still leading the department ahead of its time as well.
We're in a good position. Yeah, yeah. Doing well, very happy with that. Like I said, that's a buy-in from everybody, and it's a credit to, all the officers in the department, because everybody does a little bit, and our accreditation manager, Sergeant McLaughlin, as you know, does an outstanding job with it. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it at the end of the day. All our policies, procedures, code of conduct, everything's up to par. And when you evaluate yourself every year and every 3 years, and you say you're going to do something, and you have the documentation to prove that you're doing it, says a lot. So it's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Oh, you guys are doing a great job.
Yep, great job. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, chief. And now the other chief.
Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
How we doing?
Good. How you doing tonight?
Good, good. Put my eyeballs in.
You're not just going to go Braille method with us, or?
Well, I probably should sometimes. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm going to do it a little different than Chief Miglianico, if that's all right, but I'll start with our equipment. We just finished preventive maintenance on all the trucks, ambulances, the small equipment, generators, what have you. That's all, we just completed that.
Chief, I
Yep.
don't mean to interrupt.
Sure.
Well, the current chief car,
Yes.
right, it took a fair amount of beating at town hall, at town meeting for not being suitable. Do you have confidence in that vehicle and the, kind of the?
Yeah, it's been running fine. I haven't really had any issues except when I pulled in tonight, the check engine light came on. But, yeah, it's been running fine.
You're happy with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You've had some maintenance done to that since you...
I have, yep. We did some struts in the front, some other things I can't remember.
Exhaust gaskets and things,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right, the exhaust. Boy, but yeah, so the car's been running pretty good. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, it's all good. No, ask away. So with our ladder truck, it's a 2005 with a 75-foot aerial. The generator's off the truck right now in the shop. They had to ship it to Texas to get repaired. They're going to ship that back to us. And at some point, we had an inspection of the aerial ladder. There's some stuff that'll need to be fixed, but nothing gut punching that'll, put us out of service. But the truck is a 2005, but it is in decent shape. Our engine 3 also has a generator issue. That's the 2017 truck. So that'll go in the shop and get repaired. That's our pumper rescue, and sometimes we need to run the generator for electrical tools or whatever. But most of the newer fire trucks all come with LED lights and what have you, so you don't need the lighting set up from a generator or what have you.
That's the same truck we just fixed the pump on, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it is. Our engine 2, that's a 2001 International. That's our tanker. We call it engine 2, but it's a 2,500-gallon tanker. That's a 23-year-old truck, so at some point, it's still in good shape, but at some point, that'll be on the queue to get replaced as well. We recently took delivery of our new engine 1, in our new forestry brush truck. All our guys are trained on both of those, and we're very happy with both of those pieces. That was a great addition to the fleet.
What are you doing with the old brush truck?
The old brush truck, so we took the pump and the tank out, and now we call it Service 1. It's a service truck where if we need some help at a call, the guys will jump in that to go to another medical, or, we could move stuff around town with it. Just a utility vehicle. So, and that truck, it's a 2007, but it's got 20,000 miles on it.
Right.
So, there is a little bit of rot on the back bed underneath once we took the pump out from water over the years sitting there, but that can be fixed, and that'll be a good asset for the department as well. I think maybe Adam might want it for a plow truck. The building, so I'll jump onto the building, if that's all right. So our building was built in 2000. We're currently working with 2 engineering firms, Mike, you're well aware, to upgrade the electrical, the HVAC issues, the roof replacement, and the generator replacement. It's McRitchie and Weston and Sampson are assisting us with that. Matt's well involved with that as well. You notice the sleeping quarters on the outside of the building. Once this is all squared away, we'll do some little remodeling upstairs and hopefully get everyone back in the building and get that squared away.
Those are working out fine for you?
They are. They're working out fine, yep. I'll jump into training. So as far as training, we have a training committee made up of the call guys and full-time staff. They work well together. We do 3 trainings a month, 2 fire trainings, they're doing one right now actually, and 1 EMS training to train stuff on the ambulance for all the paramedics and the EMTs.
How's the participation with that? Good?
That's very good, yep. We've had some great turnouts with that. So I'll jump into staffing. So we had an empty vacant paramedic position for quite some time, which is, if you follow the other towns, paramedics are hard to come by. You know, Auburn's looking, Westboro's looking, Uxbridge just hired some. So we just filled that position in the last couple of weeks. We're sending our guy for his PAT test, his physical, background check and what have you. We hope to have him on board by October 1st. So that'll fill all our slots. You know, it just took us a while, but it's finally come to fruition.
So, John, while you're on
Yeah.
staffing, if I could,
Yeah,
same question that I asked the chief.
Sure.
With the new construction that's coming in.
Yeah.
Growth of the town and things like that.
so I'll jump ahead to that part of if you don't mind.
Not at all.
So currently, we have, let me get to that page, here we go. We have 3 groups working 24 hours, a group of 3, 2 groups of 2. They work 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 4 days off. Myself and the assistant chief are in the station during the day. We take the second ambulance, or any fire calls that come in, whatever whatever happens. So that's 7 full-time, and then we have 16 or 17 on-call per diem personnel, and actually have 2 more per diems in the queue right now, getting their background checks done, so we'll have a couple more per diem people to fill any vacancies we have. We have one of our full-time members in the fire academy, just started on Monday. And we have a call guy going in October as well to the fire academy.
Cool.
So, so we've met with Matt in the union, 2 meetings so far, about trying to boost our staff, because we're at the crossroads now where it's time to start building staff. 2 weeks ago, one morning, before 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we did 7 calls. We're really starting to pump out the calls. We did the numbers today. In the last 2 years, our call volume's gone up 9% each year. I know maybe that doesn't sound like a lot, but, in 2021, we did 1,150 total calls, 2022, 1,260. So if you do the math, it's around a 9% increase each year. So far this year, this calendar year is what we go by, we're at 849 calls. Last year, at this day, we're at 792. So the calls are building, with, like Kevin just said, the warehouse coming in and other developments coming in. We're at the crossroads. It's time to start building the staff. I would love to go the model that most towns use. You work 42 or 48 hours a week, 2 24s, and then you have your time off. But after meeting with Matt in the union, we've agreed that hopefully we can add 1 person so we can make all groups 3, at least during the day, when the peak call volumes are. There's not, as much as I want to be on the 224s and be like everyone else, we talked about it, and that's, I think, the best model for now for the town, to get more people during the peak hours. And then we can build from there and hopefully get to that goal of the models that everyone else is using. Our staff right now, they've had, because we're short a medic, they've worked a ton of hours. The guys and girls are tired there. So hopefully when this new guy comes in, and if we can get some more help coming in the door, that would be great. We had, about 2 weeks ago, we had 2 ambulance calls at the same time. The full-time staff took the one, and myself and the assistant took the other. We all went to UMass. At the same time at Wallem Lake, they had a 3-year-old possible drowning. And there was no one from Douglas to respond to that call. Webster came to cover that call. If we could add that 1 more person, I would be back in town still, or someone else would be, at least to cover calls like that. And we could what if forever, but it's time to start thinking about doing something to add to the staff.
Chief, where did the call in, you're in Worcester?
Yep.
Right, what role did the call folk play?
Well, during the day, there's not a lot of call people in town. If Adam's around, great, but his plate is so full at the present time, so We do have a few full-timers who are living in town now. If they're available, they'll come out. But our call staff is really from 5 o'clock at night on, unfortunately.
So it's a quick jump to mutual aid at that point?
It is, and that's why Webster was called so quick. I think the chief might have went to that call, and, but, I mean, the PD is responding, but to get another ambulance here and what have you, so,
So, if I
Yeah.
could, John,
Sure.
question, would the staffing, if we ever do get to a point where you can change that schedule over to the, what is it, the 248s?
yeah, 224s.
224s?
Sure.
Do you think that would help in your recruiting?
I absolutely do, because right now they're working an average of 56 hours a week, where it would be 42 to 48, depending on the staffing model that we use, and then, to do that third 24 a week is tiresome for the guys and girls, so, but that's, we crunch some quick numbers. I won't throw the numbers out because I want to make sure, but, that's something we trying to aim for sooner than later, to
Yeah.
get that third person on a shift. Because I was very convinced we got to jump right to the 224s, but after talking to the union, talking with Matt, we think that's a better sell and a better service for the town.
Okay.
So, let's see. Second ambulance, it's been getting out the door frequently, with the call staff, with myself, the assistant chief, so that's been happening as well. Did the training. Future staffing. Yeah, so that's kind of what I have. I'll take any questions.
So on the future staffing, you're looking to add one this year, hopefully? Is that what you're saying? Just
Well, we were hoping to add just two 10 or 12 hours a day for the two groups. We have one group of 3 and 2 groups of 2. If we could round out the groups of 2 to add a third, at least during the day, it's not such a big hit to the town financially. And then we can grow from there,
All right. So it'd be 2 full-timers, but they'd be 10 to 12, not pulling 24s.
Right, so it could be per diem people or, people you don't have to pay benefits to, so.
That staffing's more on the ambulance side than the fire side?
Yeah, it would be, yeah. It's to get the ambulance out the door, but most paramedics are cross-trained to be firefighters as well,
Right.
so that would help us on both sides.
So, and you'd be looking for medics, not basics, right?
If we could, yeah,
Yeah. Anybody have any questions for Chief Furno?
No, Matt, I think this was great. It's good to connect with the department heads, and you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
So,
Did you want Mike to do his Elvis impersonation?
That'd be great.
I can't sing, but wait until you see the moves. Don't get it?
All right.
I'm just thinking Freddie Mercury.
If I could sing like him, I'd be rich.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
All right. So we're on to review and discuss concept design report for Northeast Main Street and Davis Street and possible votes. Are you here to speak to this, Mr. Manerick?
Is there a time limit?
Midnight.
You're limited to 93 seconds.
Midnight.
It really shouldn't take more than 90 seconds, that's a hint.
No, I think the paper shred is pretty quick.
Just a hint. There's a lot of verbiage here, but at the end of the day, the question is whether or not you want to go forward as highway commissioners with this concept design.
For the record, Robert Manerick, Economic Development, before you ask, through the chair. This concept design was presented by Vanass, which is Vanass Associates, VAI, which is the traffic management team for the new warehouse. They've identified several intersections in Douglas that they have to do a traffic study on, this being one of them. I'm not in favor of any of these recommendations. They just,
Excellent choice.
I don't want to persuade your decision, but right now you have through traffic on Northeast Main Street, and they're proposing a stop sign or a stoplight at the top of the hill, which is just disastrous.
It makes no sense to change any of that on that
And the
intersection.
reason they have identified this intersection is because of the emergency exit on Northeast Main Street, of which will not be used except for emergency vehicles. So I don't see any additional traffic coming from the warehouse which warrants this design. It looks good on paper, but in practicality,
They lost me with a traffic light.
it won't work. They've got 4 concepts on there, neither which work.
So what do you propose? Leave as is?
Leave as is. They're proposing a stop sign at the, and when you come up Northeast Main Street, so you get to the top of the hill, you stop. But Davis Street would be a flow-through,
A throughway.
right? And I think that would cause more chaos unless we have any disagreements from the 3 different departments that are sitting there.
What I was just getting ready to ask out too.
And that's alternative 1. Alternative 2 is a 3-way stop. Alternative 3 is this light, which we don't have any in Douglas other than the temporary ones.
In alternative 4, we can run all this through the shredder.
I didn't print out 4, I didn't even get that far.
Have you guys had a chance to review?
I did take a look at it, and I have the same concerns that Mr. Menard has. I didn't like any of them. I think it'd be more of an issue than we have there now. So I wasn't in favor of any of them.
Same here.
Same with me.
I think that's kind of the biggest voices to hear in the room is our public safety people.
They're the ones that are dealing with this on a daily basis.
So I don't really have any questions. So it's a matter of we decide to accept or refuse their proposal.
Well, we reviewed and discussed it. I would make a motion to leave it as is.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the matter?
No.
Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was easy, Bob.
It was 93 seconds.
There you go. Acceptance of donation from Skinell Properties and possible votes?
I will frame the issue. Bob, to his credit, is a detail-oriented guy and has all of the explanation if you want to hear it all. But what I would say is this, is that the way the projects have developed and the way we have organized the funding, federal grant and a state grant, there is more money in the federal grant that we can get out of it and not enough in the state grant to complete the work as conceptualized. And the stopgap has always been that we had pledges from the developers to match our grants with their commitments. And as we've learned, as Gilboa Street has been dug up and North Street has been dug up for utility installation, it's quite apparent that the paving project is more involved than was originally thought. So instead of doing a cold plane and a small layer of asphalt over the top of that and resetting the curbs, we want to reset the curbs. We want to do a full regrind with 3 inches of binder and what, an inch and a half?
Inch and a half, 3.5 binder, 1.5, 5 total.
So 5 total inches, and that represents a change order. The way the projects have been running slightly under budget, we can actually utilize the developer's match to pay for the the outlying balance of the change order. So, true to form, we don't sign change orders around here unless we have funding. This is where you can, nice and efficient. But I think Bob deserves credit here for organizing this, because at the end of the day, we're asking private interests to give us money. And you got the job done, which I appreciate very much.
Yeah, just to, thank you, Matt. There's a little simple background. There's 4 basic ways to resurface a road with hot mix asphalt. Overlay, which is a simple overlay process. There's a mill and overlay, which is just a little more expensive, where you mill a specified thickness and replace it with the same thickness. The third method, which is not commonly used, is what they did on 16, where they heat it, break it up, add oil, mix it, regrade it. And that was a convoluted process, experimental, but that is a process. And the fourth one is to reclaim and pulverize. The reason I mention this is 3 of these processes are already on North Street. The reason North Street is in a problem right now is because there's been many overlays, and this is before the Furno boys came on scene. This is a long time ago. They added overlay after overlay after overlay, and if you notice, there's no curb differential. The road is level with the sidewalk because they never milled it. So that's the problem with North Street right now. We had in our MassWorks budget a mill and overlay for North Street and Gilboa. And we would have worked out almost to the dollar, almost perfectly. But when the paver came out, we had our meeting with John and Adam and Bob Sullivan. It was decided that the road is in such bad condition that you need to pulverize and regrind it, the most expensive operation. That added about $350,000 to the project. Long story short, we were now, with mill and overlay perfectly balanced, now we're projected to be over. So now we're asking our developers to get some of their contributions to help us finish the project. We're just projected to be over budget. Right now, we're still good if we do the mill and overlay. So this $250,000 is the first item from Scannell. Today, I worked on an additional $150,000 from CRG. That will be, check will be coming in probably Thursday. So that's basically what we have right now, so we can get the change order. We can sign the change order, because this will allow us the funding to support the change order.
So if we,
We take it in the form of a donation,
okay,
a donation that must be accepted by the Select Board. Donated funds may only be used for the purpose specified by the donor. So both of these checks are associated with language reviewed by Rich Bowen that will say, these funds that we're taking in are to be used for the paving project. The difference between the two is that CRG has a development agreement with us where they have pledged to purchase 4 different pieces of equipment. And we're due to get that equipment once they have a certificate of occupancy in the warehouse. It was set up that way to prevent any of our inspectors from feeling pressure to rule a certain way on the things that we're seeing, knowing that the town might get something eventually. But it's not going to work that way. So once the CO is there and the building is fully operational, only then would we be taking the development agreement pledges for those pieces of equipment. In the case of CRG, it was fair to say, we'll use your money to finish the paving project. If the paving project comes in under, you can take whatever you've pledged here and take it as a credit against the cost of the pieces of equipment that you pledged. So in the development agreement, that's $300,000 worth of equipment. There's no guarantee that we won't use all $350 for paving, including the $150 from CRG, but there may be some left over. So we wanted to give them the option. In the case of Scannell, we're not, because they have the lion's share of the paving. And their project's on the other side of 146. So in terms of linear feet, it's a pretty involved amount of paving. So they're going to be up. We will spend their $250 first before we go to CRG's one.
so if we approve this and sign that change order, how quickly do they start on the actual paving process?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
The paver will not talk to us until we have a change order in place. So the steps are, right now, is to get the checks, which are before you. You approve them, the money's now available to back the change order. We can now have 5 signatures on the change order, and now it's effective. They will sit down with us and give us a schedule. I've tried to get them to pencil in for the end of September, which is the absolute earliest we could have paved these streets anyways.
Yep. I mean,
If you noticed on the town website is a letter that Bob Sullivan and I constructed for the traveling public explaining why these streets are not paved right now. There's a 3-month settling process. Eversource finished the last trench in June. So you do the math. We're coming up to when that 3-month period.
is it likely, and I know it's probably asking somebody to divine this, but is it likely that we'll get this done before this winter? Because I would not envy anybody trying to snowplow that road in its current condition.
My goal is to get it done before the November town meeting,
Okay.
so I can not wear body armor.
So you have 2 different checks here. Do we, the motion need to include the second check? You have one identified on the thing, or do you wait until the second
Because the
check comes in?
donor's language is different, I would ask you to take 2 votes, one for Scannell and one for CIG.
Could we do both of those this evening, or do we want to wait?
It's all in front of you in your packet.
All right.
I would make a motion to accept a donation from Skinnell Properties in the amount of $250,000, is that the one?
Yes.
$250,000.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. I'd like to make a second motion to accept the donation of $150,000 from CRG.
I'll second.
Is there any reason that we should read this into the record? No. Okay.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, so we need to review and approve the local initiative program refinancing for a resident and possible votes. I think that's that email that I was getting, right?
Yeah.
So, by some operation of statute plus regulation, somehow the select board gets itself involved in signing off on a refi or additional equity drawdown by someone who is in a low-income unit, or maybe it's a low-mod income unit, in the 40B project. Just so the board, especially the 2 new members, this 40B is a little bit unique. Well, I wouldn't say it's unique. The special thing about it to remember is that it is technically a partnership, a local initiative partnership between the town of Douglas and the state and the developer. And so you are basically partners and wrote an agreement that now guides regulatory oversight of the 40B project and the lottery that goes along with who qualifies for the low mod and who gets. So part of the conditions here is that you are being made aware as the partner in this venture that someone who is in a one of these, how do you want to call it, one of the carved out homes that qualifies the project for 40B. And you're going to be signing off on some additional debt against the asset. Other than that, I can't imagine for the life of me why you would ask any questions or delve into the details on this one. It's just like somebody needs a couple extra $1,000 and has the equity to do it and needs this ticket to be punched.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to object to it.
No. I'd like to make a motion to approve the local initiative program refinancing for a resident at Compass Point.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. So the flag policy for town buildings, final read and possible votes. Do I need to read through the policy again? There hasn't been any changes,
No,
No, same as the last one.
so we just need to take a vote to actually accept the policy as is. Matt?
Good choice.
If that's the will of the board.
Make a motion to approve and implement the new flag policy for the town of Douglas.
I will second.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're passing over 9, as they're not back yet, which brings us to the administrator's report.
Mr. Chairman, I'll try to, a quick summary of, a lot of what was on your agenda tonight's what we've been working on, right? So we've been trying to pave the way to get some of those roadways dealt with before the snow flies. In terms of where we stand with the projects overall, I think you can see that the bridge is finished, and there will be discussion at a future select board meeting about the road striping conventions are going to be used and the way traffic's going to flow on and off the bridge and into the cubes at Gilboa. I think we're going to probably put that off until the 19th of September.
okay.
You will notice that as the sewer pump station progress is made on it, and as the bridge is finished up, Jersey barriers will be shifted back and forth. We may have some additional new traffic patterns in that part of town. Asking everyone, once again, please be patient. One of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing is to have the concrete trucks that are going to run in and pour the floors, and there are going to be many, many of those trucks, to have them use the bridge. So they won't be going through Douglas neighborhoods. They're going to come off the highway, come on to Gilboa, bang a left into the project. That is the goal. That has always been the goal for the timing of the bridge. So that's going to save people a lot of headaches, because that's a massive building. The amount of concrete being poured is really impressive. In terms of where we stand with a couple of different projects, we've been meeting on a regular basis with Weston and Sampson over the potential highway bond proposal. The way the timing's looking like it's going to work out now, we might have our best chance of getting full conceptual design and a conversation about a number that will be rigorous enough to be ready for prime time. We're probably going to have a special. So there's some discussion about having a special town meeting in the middle of the winter, probably in January, that would be solely dedicated to the issue of the highway barn. We don't want to rush to November with a proposal that hasn't been fully worked out and not be able to answer questions on the floor of town meeting and not have the time to prep the public for what this might look like. The project may have more than one piece to it. So there may be a necessary real estate transaction and a necessary, building project. And then on top of that, we may be running some utilities up Main Street to support the project. So really, it's 3 items that will be going into this conversation. And people need to be cognizant of the fact that that's, a fairly substantial debt issue. And we could use the extra time to prepare our financial side of the house so that when we do the bond ratings call, that we're in the strongest possible position to get the best possible bond rating. It is very difficult to get money right now. I don't know. I recently purchased an item and I get good credit, and I was shocked at the interest rate that I was looking at. That's what the market is at. So municipalities obviously borrow at much lower rates than individual consumers, and yet we haven't really talked about 6% money in the municipal level for many, many years, and that's where we might be. So a few additional months might actually help us, because depending on what the Fed does, some of the rates may start to calm down just a little bit. I would say, and Selectman Fitzpatrick can chime in if he chooses to, or John or Adam, but I think the work that we've received to this point has been really good. I think this firm has really been on top of this project, has moved things along really well. They're very transparent. They explain their assumptions. I think they're following the traditional path of trying to, I don't want to say be heroes, but they're going to start off with a high number because they'd much rather come down. They know enough about the world that we live in that come down off the top rather than, oops, we forgot this, and oops, we forgot that. We don't want to get into that kind of game. So I think they're just covering themselves, but frankly, by the time this is over, we should have a palatable number and a good project.
Right, and it's up to their opinion, but I think that they came up with a pretty good layout of the facility that we're talking about.
So the other major project I have on my radar screen is the generator project here, which I feel like I've been talking about.
We're getting a generator?
So I was reminded, since I hadn't heard from them since March, that they told me in March that the generator's due to be here by January 2024. But what they are anticipating is to do most of the site work in preparation for that installation before Thanksgiving. So we'll be looking at November. There'll be some disturbance to the way this building operates. Probably some temporary fencing, and holes will be dug, and some work will be well underway by the time the installation occurs. Obviously, we would want this to be here before storm season, fully operational and tested. It's just, sometimes things don't work out exactly the way you want to. Getting a generator of this size has been a bit of a challenge. We will be out to bid this week for heating fuel. I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll get a good market price. It's still the summertime, and I think salt is out. I don't know if Shrewsbury came back.
We don't have the results yet.
We don't have the results yet. And we opened bids in the last week for the work on South Street. I'm pleased to say the low bidder, if they pass muster, is a reputable firm that has worked in town before, so we're not really experimenting at all with this particular firm, but they came in well under our budget. So here's hoping, knock on wood, that the engineers sign off on that low bidder, and that we would proceed with the apparent low bidder. We need to get them an answer fairly soon, so I'm looking for Stantec to finish that work. In terms of future business for the board, we finished today the Board of Directors of the Mass Strategic Health Group a new joint purchasing agreement that is updated to reflect the way our group actually works. We started this thing almost 5 years ago now with 3 members. We now have 15 municipalities. 2 of them are really small, so they combine, so we have 14 voting members. We also have 5 municipalities that purchase only retiree insurance through us. But the total handle now is over $110 million. So the group has grown to be a formidable bidding entity, and we've built the ability to continue to float month-to-month claims and leave enough in the bank so that those municipalities, Douglas being the chief interest in this conversation, would be able to withdraw the surplus that we built up in the fund over the years. So you'll recall that we requested and received back our equity buy-in. It's already occurred. That equity buy-in closed to free cash. It was 1 month's worth of claims. So when you see our free cash certification for this year, it will include 2 major items: the building permit for the cubes at Gilboa and the equity buy-in being returned to us. Now, if your memory serves you, you'll remember that the equity buy-in was funded out of free cash. So that year, we basically reduced our capital spending because we had to buy into the health group. At this point, we closed books on June 30th. The town of Douglas has an approximate cumulative surplus of $2.2 million in this trust fund. So by way of reference, our annual spend's about 3.4. So we are actually 76% in surplus. The joint purchasing agreement caps us at 12. So when I present to you with the joint purchasing agreement, I will also be presenting you with a draft policy for the use of funds being returned to the town, because I think it is incumbent upon everybody to remember that these funds were raised and appropriated for health insurance, and to the extent that the town has exposures such as OPEB liability and, the potential, and we'll get into this at a future date, but the potential for our census to grow. We have so many people that don't take our benefit program, but we would need to fund it if they chose to take it. And right now, we wouldn't really have that much flexibility. We only over budget about 5 plans a year. But long story short, in working with my colleagues to negotiate this agreement, is getting our surplus out has been a primary focus of my activity. So when it comes to you, it's the result of 14 voices, and we're hoping to have very few amendments, to have our governing bodies approve the agreement, and we'll all come back, and the group would be fully signed up with a legally binding agreement on all 14 members, which is not the case currently. So that was by way of preview. I could go on, but I think there's a lot of information there, so I will leave it at that, and thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
Matt, are you keeping 12% of the 2.2 and returning the remainder?
Yeah, so I think as a smaller group, we're more subject to the risk of volatility. So a couple of big claims can really set us back, or a large increase in utilization. So if people who don't spend much all of a sudden have a year where they don't hit stop loss, but they all start spending a lot more because of whatever reason, that makes our claims experience ramp up very quickly. So we could stand to have anywhere from 12 to 15% set aside. But
Is that of the annual gross of the reserves?
that's of our annual
Yeah.
contribution. So that 2.2 million surplus also includes about 200,000 of what is called IBNR. So it's basically discounted. It's really closer to 2.4 million, but we set aside 200,000 for claims that are incurred but not recorded. Because if we were to leave this group, we would have to leave that money behind to satisfy any claims that we had that came in after our departure date to cover our expenses. So that gets factored into that number. On a relative basis, we are by far the most successful group within the joint purchasing arrangement. And I think it has to do with the fact that we are small, and some of our most expensive claimants have either retired from our service or moved to another town or left public service entirely. So we no longer have those expensive claims coming through, but we are still being underwritten against our prior experience, if that makes any sense.
Thanks, Matt.
Sure.
All right. And then,
Before we get into that, are we doing the potential litigation, Matt?
No, so 12C can be stricken from the agenda.
awesome. That's the only one that we can strike from
Yes.
executive session? All right. So what we do have is open session topics not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance of the meeting. I'm assuming it is this transportation improvement project?
No.
No.
No?
No.
That was under 11 in my book.
Can I approach Matt for 1 second?
They're not here. Okay.
Yeah.
19th.
Yeah,
That's right.
Gotcha.
yeah. I don't know why we wouldn't. No.
All right. So in essence, we don't have an 11.
Hold on,
Wait a minute.
let him figure it out.
No, we do. I don't know why anybody's confused. There are two things that we could have discussed tonight. One has to be discussed. So that's the striping off the edge of the bridge on Gilboa Street,
Yeah.
complete with turn lane and et cetera. Another set of plans came in very late today, and I'm not willing to talk about that tonight because you guys haven't had a chance to look at it, and that's silly.
That's the thought.
But this one, because time is of the essence, we have no choice. We got it a day or two ago, we got to bring it to your attention for your vote.
The Jersey barriers are being removed tomorrow. They will replace it with an exact row of reflective barrels until such time that they can apply the road with the striping plan. The striping plan includes a third lane, which is a turning lane coming from the Shell station into the project.
Okay.
What's important about that is, Matt had mentioned all the concrete pours. They'll be starting probably 100 truck pours here pretty soon. They'll be using that turning lane. If we don't have that turning lane, it is I think, a safety issue, backing up traffic. The good thing, if we could paint this now, is that if it doesn't work, we have a huge eraser coming in called mill and overlay at the end of October. So we can make it work. So it'd be a trial run right now if we could actually paint this. The idea was to use the reflective paint, the plastic paint, but that's not going to work right now. You're just not going to put down expensive paint and then mill it off 2 months later. So they plan on just, the contractor just plans on striping this. So this board, as highway commissioners, it's on your roads. So kind of looking for approval.
Nothing unusual here. So what you're going to have is a left-hand only turn lane striped on Gilboa Street westbound for trucks to turn left and take the bridge into the project area. Everything else is going to be the same. You'll, on the right hand, on the eastbound side, you'll have a fog line and your double yellow.
Okay.
But it's in your street. So.
What's the length of that lane, the turning lane?
That turning lane will be about 4 truck queues in it. It's about 600-700 feet.
Okay.
Now, the sewer pump station is working where the orange piece is right now, so we can't strike that.
300.
Any thoughts, guys?
I think it's probably important to do.
I think that, if you're going off that plan, we think that plan is fine.
Absolutely. We have the same school, a similar zone at the schools with a turning lane and everything that works great. So it'd be a great trial run.
Yep. I'll make a motion to
Use the
Approve the
90%.
temporary striping.
temporary striping for the turning lane for access to the Hughes project on Gilboa Street.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Which brings us to
Thank you.
number 12.
Thanks, Bob.
The floor is yours, Mr. Bowman, as it's,
Bottom it is, I guess.
yeah?
I'll make a motion that we move into executive session for the purposes of reviewing executive session minutes to discuss Chapter 1, Parcel Orange Street and Southeast Main Street, and then to finish the evening with the contract negotiations with the town administrator, then to leave executive session for the full purpose of adjournment.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Postma, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Morris, aye.
All right.
Smith, aye.